two sit by each other so they can present the flag to both of you. Okay, I think that's. I would say maybe like in the middle, yeah. And that's water in those containers and Kleenex. Thank you. Friends, we are going to begin the funeral service for Mr. Harold J. Wolf. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I'd also like to welcome everyone via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you for attending as well. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Lisa Bellows of Congregation Beth Am in Buffalo Grove. We are going to start with military honors. Mr. Wolf is very important to him. So the United States Army will now present the flag with the military honors.
President of the United States Army, and please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation.
Harold probably would have liked that. Yeah. Death has taken our beloved Harold J. Wolf. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Harold's life that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for his companionship along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness. For all these and more, we give thanks. Times like this, we read Psalm 23, words of our psalmist. King David was a man who wrestled with issues of life and loss, of love and death. You have the 23rd Psalm on the inside cover of the leaflet. I'll begin with the Hebrew, and then please join me in English. Adonai ro I lo echzar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, amei menachot yenachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of the shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, but the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. God, you have given us a loved one who will never be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that there's a time to speak. There's a time to keep silent. Now is the time to speak and to share words and memories from their hearts. I first invite Harold's son, Steve, to come forward.
Good afternoon. My story goes back with my father over 68 years. I have very good memories of my father when he was in his late 20s. I was blessed to have two loving parents, Harold and Fern. My father was a man who grew up in the Depression and had no father after 13 years. He lived with his cousins and his mother and his uncle. My dad was a gifted jazz drummer, a painter, an artist. He taught me to love the Chicago White Sox. He taught me how to hit a 16-inch clincher softball. And I told him, I said, Dad, boy, when I joined Little League Baseball, it was a little harder. You had me hitting a 16-incher. Now I got to hit this hard little thing. It was tough, but I learned. My dad taught me how to be a courteous, polite person. When we'd ride the number 5 Jeffrey bus downtown, I was a little kid, maybe no older than 5. He always told me, son, if you see somebody that needs to sit, you give them your seat. When I was a little fella, he was teaching me how to be a man. He took care of my sister, Robin, my mother, and myself through thick and thin. I'm so glad that many times in my life I told him he was the greatest father one could have. He took great pride in his military service in Korea, and he had a can-do work attitude that carried over until he was 82 years old. He worked. He had a tremendous sense of humor. My dad was not a joke teller, but anybody that spent some time around my father, he had a very unique way of telling stories that could make you laugh. He had things with me and my sister, the 10 feet rule, and this was a funny thing. My dad worked 6 days a week most of his life, and my sister and I wanted a piece of him on the weekends, and my dad would be doing whatever he was doing with bills or his coin collection, and we'd walk up to him, hi, Dad, 10 feet back. The oxygen is getting thin. 10 feet back. And then he'd start to laugh. So he could be very serious, but he loved us, and he loved his friends. He was loyal to a fault, and he always talked up until he was not feeling well anymore about his best friend Donnie Goldberg and Al Stein. They were his best friends. I can't say enough about my brother-in-law Jack and Robin for taking care of Dad in the last 5 weeks, and especially Jack, who's over there every night for the last 5 weeks, doing what most people could not do. I thank you, Jack, so much for that. In closing, I know this is cliche, but I know he's smiling, and he would probably tell me to hurry up, get over with this. But the great late General MacArthur said that soldiers never die, they just fade away. And so PFC Harold J. Wolf, my dad, you did fade away. I'll love you forever, and I will see you on the other side. Thank you.
And now Harold's grandson, Josh, will come and share.
Afternoon. What my uncle said about my grandpa is all 100% true, and then some. For people to really know what kind of person my grandpa was, you would have to be in his inner circle to really get a feeling of the sensitivity of the man that he actually was. He was an artist, a musician, a poet in his own way. The way he spoke, the way he carried himself, he lived life truly on his own terms. And anybody who knew how stubborn he is and was could attest to it. Still is. So I was fortunate enough to share my entire life with him. Not many 33-year-olds get to live the span of their life and have their grandparent there in their corner the entire time. So for that, I'm very blessed. I'm sure Justin feels the same. But I got to spend a lot more time with my grandpa on fishing trips every year since I was 11, maybe even a little younger, who knows. But when you spend that kind of time with somebody on a boat, taking care of them when they get older, you start to realize how many similarities you share with somebody. And he just so happens to be blood, so there was quite a few more than I was aware of. I found that I shared many things in common with him, and I always felt that in later life we had a very unspoken, solid connection that was it transcends, I think, what most people could see or feel, from our artistic ability to just the sensitivity and the way that we carried ourselves. Again, seemed to be something that we had that I don't think I've seen before. If I have, I wouldn't know how to describe it. So the blessings of him is just to have him in our life the way that he was special, not just from a teaching perspective, but from a life perspective. My grandfather was a person who he took pride in his convictions. He was a person who was decisiveness through and through, a person who could make a decision, a split decision like that, and know exactly what he felt and meant from it. And that was something I always respected and cherished about him. Something that I felt derived a lot of strength from somewhere that I don't know where it came from or how he developed it, but it was something I think he taught all of us in some way, shape, or form. So not to say too much else, but the man was incredibly sweet in his own hard, rough-headed way. And I think this day, while it's sad, is so much more of a celebration for his life and who he was. 95 years old, you basically won life to make it this long, to see your family grow, expand, thrive, experience sadness together, experience joy together, happiness together. His life's mission was to see this, and mission accomplished for him. So we'll all miss him forever. We'll carry him around with us every day as we are right now. But I truly believe that he went out with his own way and his own accord. So thank you.
Harold made life in our world more colorful, and it's already been said that he loved his jobs, but the one he perhaps loved most was working for 40 years at designing jewelry, being a jeweler, Reichman Jewelry, and he valued his relationships with Al Stein, his son Paul, Otis, and Barbara, and also the police who protected the store. The military made him another family. And it was there that he felt a sense of belonging, something he longed for. He was close with his mom, like was said, and his aunt and uncle and cousins, which helped him, of course, feel a part of a family. And he especially loved Shabbat. Had to be home for Shabbat dinner, candlelighting, and challah. He was above all a family man. He so loved his beloved wife, Fernie.
Yeah.
He loved her fiercely. Yeah. Of course, Robin and Steve and Jack is one of his own. Kelly, he finally had his granddaughter with you, and the grandchildren, Justin and Josh and Kelly, made him so very happy. It was so important for him to make it to Josh and Kelly's wedding, which he did, and then some. Harold cared about you, not just his immediate family, but whoever he was with. He wanted to know about you. When there were functions or dinners to be had, it could not start unless everybody was there. He was a great listener, and he wanted to find out genuinely about how you were doing. He was larger than life. He was loyal to a fault. And as much as he valued his time in the service, he taught you in war, no one wins. He knew what was important in life. He had a life well lived, and it wasn't an easy life, but it was a great life because you were in it. He taught you well, and when you do for each other and for others, when you listen and see people when no one else does, so he lives in the world through you the only way that he can right now. He was a blessed and righteous man. May his name and his memory be for all of us, for Israel and the world, a blessing. Amen. Psalm 23 was for the mourners, reminding us that we are never alone. The next prayer, El Malei Rachamim, is just for Harold. We ask that he continue to be received with great love and tenderness. If you're able, please stand. El Malei Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hametzei Menacha Nechana Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im Kedoshim Utohorim Kezohar Haraki HaMazhirim Et Nishmat Hershel Tzvi Ben Moshe Shahalach Le'olamo Baal harachamim, yastirehu beseter kenefav leolamim, v'tzur hachayim, at nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Harold J. Wolf, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. We say together, Amen. We'll turn now to the words of the mourner's Kaddish, reminding us of the great fortune that Harold was in our life. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach leolam olomei omaya. Yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort all of us who are bereaved. Do we say together, Amen. Can I have this? Friends, in just a moment, we'll have the opportunity to fulfill one of the greatest mitzvot, commandments, the opportunity to bury our own loved one. It's an act of unconditional love. The tradition is to take 3 shovels of the earth, 3 because it's the number of intention, meaning we mean to do this act of unconditional love and respect. Once, if you choose, once you take the 3rd shovel, place the shovel back into the earth so the next person can take with intention. When the time comes, we'll ask the family to go first.
Cemetery gentlemen, just going to put the vault cover on first, and then we'll follow the rabbis. little shovel and the bucket, it might be a little easier. The family first. Yeah. There's a shovel or bucket. Can come on either side.
Please, everybody go through.
While we continue with the burial, I would like to remind everyone the family will be sitting shiva at the Goldberg residence, 416 Chateau Drive in Buffalo Grove, immediately following the burial here today until this evening at 8 p.m. That information is on your folders as well as our website. So today only until 8 p.m. at 416 Chateau Drive in Buffalo Grove. Thank you.
It's easy when you just speak from your heart.
Exactly. I know. It's not easy.
Ariel, are you okay with watching the
This concludes the live stream. Once again, the family appreciates your presence and your support.